So I can't believe I'm saying this, but like a few days ago, at the time of making this video, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition got announced for Nintendo Switch to release in March of next year, 2025, and what? Oh my god! Okay, so just having that just drop out of nowhere on a random like Tuesday, like insane! Like what? So okay, right. Xenoblade Chronicles X, I guess with some context for this, was released back on the Wii U back in 2015. And the Wii U is it's definitely a subject for someone else to talk about, but like that was a doomed console from the very get-go. And Xenoblade Chronicles X was the first New Zealand game we had after the original Xenoblade Chronicles, which only really came overseas thanks to Project Rainfall,
Miss,
which you can probably see on screen right now. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. And obviously at the time, like Xenoblade was still like pretty niche, obviously. And for a New Zealand game to release on the Wii U of all things, yeah, it's kind of like its fate was sealed from the very start. But if I'm going to be honest with you, that's nothing to say the actual quality of Chronicles X, like, at all. Like, and also being straight up you, Chronicles X was my first Xenoblade game. Obviously it wasn't the one I first heard about. I had watched through, actually I think the same year as Xenoblade Chronicles X came out, 2015. Earlier in the year, I had finally decided to watch through Joe Conroy's super long Let's Play of the original Xenoblade Chronicles. And it was one of those things where it just like weirdly lined up at the right time for me. Where like I was hooked into Xenoblade because of the Let's Play that I watched through. Just because of its like amazing storytelling and all that. I was truly invested in all that. And for there to be a new Xenoblade game releasing the same year on a console I was one of the 13 owners of a Wii U back in the day. I don't have the console anymore, unfortunately, but even still, it's something I can hold to my name, I guess. Yeah, just being there at the right place, right time, I guess. Like, I remember playing it for the first time on Christmas of 2015. Same year I got Bayonetta 2, which both those games, like, really, I guess, really big in determining, in just making me into who I am. Of course, same Bayonetta 2 in the same sentence as that is really weird out of context, but I mean, like, in terms of my tastes of games and all that kind of stuff. I love the Bayonetta franchise for reference, but that's not a topic for right now. And I just, of course, I didn't know what the hell I was doing at first with Chronicles X, but I remember over time just kind of like sinking a huge amount of time into it. Like, I remember pulling up the menu at one point because it had your time clocked in the top right, and just one moment seeing like 120 hours or something clocked, which at the time for me was pretty like insane, considering games I played before then I wouldn't typically sink that amount of time into in like a single playthrough or whatever, because I was playing stuff like Pokemon or like Pokemon Platinum, Pokemon Black and White. I mean, sure, you can look to Pokemon X and Y where I clocked about 1,000 hours plus, but most of that was taking advantage of the infamous Lunar City exploit. If you know, you know. That's all I'll say. But with Chronicles X, XCX, I'm just gonna call it from now on. a game I've actually actively sunk the time into, was insane to see, and was just kind of like, it was the first kind of time getting to realize that, goddamn, I love this game. Like, obviously I knew that before. Like, a lot of people have opinions about X in the ways that, like okay, to get into actual, I was saying how, like, X's sales were nothing to talk about, like, its quality, because, like, no, like, XCX isn't typically deemed the best Xenoblade game in the franchise. It's separate from the overarching saga of the original 2 and 3, which is known as the Cloud Saga. It's its own separate bubble, I guess you could say. Its own separate timeline, whatever. Although there are references to the novel series, which really makes you question its canonicity. Like Lynn having the Monado as one of the little hair clips. Like, that's interesting to think about. But anyway, as I was saying, you can tell this is unscripted to hell. But like, oh my god, man, I'm struggling. I'm so excited. Like, just, I cannot wait to play this game again. Like, when it comes to go back to the quality of X, I keep saying how it's not really considered like at the same level of quality as the Cloud Saga, and I feel that's mostly attributed to its story. Admittedly, X's story is a bit, what's the term I would use? Not unfocused. It's awfully straightforward compared to the rest of the games, as well as, now there's nothing wrong with straightforwardness, but like, I think what makes a lot of the Xenoblade stories is how, like, exciting things are from moment to moment, and it isn't just one single solitary story. Like, imagine in the original, Shulk's main motivation for going on his quest, and all, is to just kill off all the Mechon, right? Now just imagine, like, for a second, if that was the only thing throughout the entire story. Like, you get to the end of the game, you fight the final Mechon boss or whatever, and that's it. It's not exactly a, I guess in some senses it's a satisfying conclusion. Sort of a satisfying story conclusion, but it's not exactly exciting, and I'd argue, given hindsight of what the story turned out to be, incredibly uninvested, uninteresting, rather. And I guess that's the case for X as well, because, like, it's a straightforward story that I think gets lost at a certain point in its own sort of way, which is weird to say about something I just said was straightforward, but I'm trying to keep spoilers to minimum as much as possible. But, like, the game's almost like a decade at this point. Luxar, the main bad guy or whatever, you know what, no, I'm not going to get into that. That's not for now. But yeah, like, you know, story of XCX is not exactly one of the greatest in the series, and yeah, I'll be upfront, it's not like, it's definitely not out there. But if we want to talk about everything else XCX has to offer, oh my god, it's probably, like, it's definitely up there with one of the best games in the series. Sure, there's like 4 games. I mean, like, 7 if you want to include the DLC expansions for 1, 2, and 3. Like, if you want to, like, count them as their own separate games, I mean. But I'd just say the expansions are included with the base games. So, yeah, the 4 games in the series, anyway. Like, gameplay-wise, I thought at the time that X was, like, in hindsight, I think X is like one of the best, maybe, because, like, it's super fast paced, and it's like, there's also like different sort of what's the term? It's different builds you can run as well. Like, here's the thing about X, right? It is an MMO, not an MMO in like the traditional sense, like Final Fantasy XIV, but in the sense that, like, it's got that sort of MMO core to it, where there are different builds you can run for your characters. You have the main character you play as is a fully customizable one, which is part of why the story doesn't work too well, because your main protagonist is a silent one outside of battle anyway, where they're like shouting and screaming all the time. But different builds you can run, like classes rather I should say, they can like have on one character. There's the character customization at the start of the game. There's online co-op in a sense where you can do like these famous squad missions. Where, oh yeah, squads too. Like at some point near the start of the game, you can choose what kind of squad you can be in. I don't remember names of squads, unfortunately, but each of them had their own like little benefits, I guess. At least I think they did. It's been a while since I've actually played. Last time I played was when I tried to play it again in, I want to say 20... Was that 2018? No, it must have been 2018, because like I remember getting the game again in 2018, but my gamepad was busted at the time, so I had to wait for I had to pester my uncle to try and get it back to me as soon as possible, because he had like ordered me a new one or whatever. Yeah, it must have been 2018, because like that was the same year I got Chronicles 2, which turned out to be like one of my favourite games of all time. Come on. Train of Thought. Yeah, it just happened to be like one of those things that lined up perfectly again. Just how like watched through Joe Conrad's Let's Play of Xenoblade Chronicles in 2015, and X came out the same year. I started playing X again in 2018. Didn't fully get into it at the time, but Chronicles 2 had come out the previous year, and towards the end of that year, before I got it for Christmas, I was feeling that itch for Xenoblade again. And it's just, yeah, the kind of right place, right time thing again. Sorry, complete distracted again. I mentioned about squads or something. Squads with different benefits and so, and and it has a very MMO core in a lot of its gameplay, design. Yeah, like if we're talking like actual like gameplay and stuff like that, it's one of the best in the series. In terms of like getting into the battles, fast paced and all that. Exploration's really just fun. It helps that like Mirror, the planet, the place X takes place on after humanity abandoned Earth, following some alien invasion. Mirror is, at the time, I think was said to be larger than GTA 5, which you know, for a Nintendo game at the time, a Xenoblade one at that, which was like, you know, still fairly niche series. That was insane, and I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if that is actually the case. I haven't like looked into the metrics of that, but yeah, like Mirror's an insanely huge place to explore. Helped by the fact you have like different forms of travel. Like there's a sprint button, which doesn't sound like crazy at all, but the main series Xenoblade games don't have that. You have to either equip accessories or find key items, I guess, that would help you move faster when exploring the overworld. X just allows you to like hold down the left analog stick to sprint, which was like insane. There's also fall damage, which that gets explained at some point, so I won't really go into that. Which really helps because the terrain in Mirror is like insane. Like it's an alien planet, so it allows for more creative like topography design, terrain design, whatever, to choose the simpler word. And it's really, really cool. Like always looks. I've always loved how Mirror has looked. Like there are 5 main areas to Mirror. No, there's 5 areas to Mirror you can explore. I was talking so long, my screen just like went to sleep. Primordia, which is like the first main area you can explore, and just saying third time Primordia for the first time, I remember that feeling so well. It's like Primordia is easily my favourite place to explore, but because like it was the first place of Mira that we get to explore. But like I've always loved that place, man. There's Noctilum, which is a kind of a forest, dense forest type of area, if I had to explain it in the loosest terms possible. That one's really fun to explore too. There's Oblivia, which is like a wasteland kind of area. Not one of my favourites, because I'd say primarily because like I'm not a huge fan of the wasteland aesthetic, but it's still like got its moments in there. There's Silverlum as well, the incredibly pretty looking snow-like area. It's not actually snow; it's like white sand, but it's incredibly like pretty area to explore, especially at night. And then there's Coldros, which, fun fact about Coldros, at least when it comes to me anyway, when I was playing through X for the first time, I was having trouble like actually getting through the story missions at first, and I was really looking forward to getting to Coldros, because on the map at the time, I just kind of like looked at it and just thought, oh cool, an autumn-like area, like. But no, it's not what it looked like to me. It was just like a lava wasteland kind of place. And I don't really remember too much about Coldros, but I can still like see it in my mind's eye what it does look like. And yeah, I think it's still a fairly sizable, like, interesting place to explore. And like, when it comes to exploration as well, like, what is a Xenoblade game without just like enemies all scattered over the place? Then yeah, like Mira is teeming with all sorts of kind of wildlife to fight, such as like from your smaller mooks, I guess, of enemies, like these little lion weird things, or the giant ass dinosaurs you can see for the first time in Primordia, or the the traditional territorial rockbart like enemy that I'm sure you'll get to see your first time going through. And that's just in Primordia alone. There are other monstrous entities like throughout. Their size is like, you know, only like understandably intimidating, but like thanks to something you can get later in the game, which I'm just going to refer to, just talk about now. The Skells, these like, I'm just going to say, they're mechs, right? Just mechs you can pilot and help you get around easier, and like conserve to aid you in combat as well, like fighting with the mechs, the Skells. Like that's also what makes the gameplay extra fun as well. Like you can either fight on foot or with the Skells, and usually the idea is to fight with the Skells, because like the Skells are going to do way more damage than you would do on foot normally. They also just make traversing a lot easier. You can get around much faster when they're transformed into their whole vehicle mode. But at a certain point, you can also fly around with your Skells, and that's flying around Mira or Primordia, I guess, just by itself. Oh, I'm about to get to music, aren't I? Just flying around was so fun. It was so cool. Like one of my core memories for sure. Just like such an important part about the game for me. And like to get into it now, like okay, and also enemies in the air to say that as well, and that's really fun to have as well. Just having a random enemy you did not expect to like be fighting in the air just suddenly come at you. But yeah, like when you start flying around in your Skell, like as soon as you do, a track called "Don't Worry" starts playing, and it's easily one of my favourite pieces in the entire game. Like music wise, X is banging. A lot of people don't exactly vibe with the X soundtrack, which it is fair enough. Like it was trying more. It was the first game to actually include lyrics in a lot of its songs, and I can see why people wouldn't vibe to a lot of them, in my opinion, honestly. But I mean, in my opinion, anyway, everything everything slaps hard. Like, you've got the unique enemy theme. Like, that's easily one of the classic ones. I unfortunately don't remember it right now what the name of it is. But there's also Black Tar. That one's been memed a lot in recent times. There's Don't Worry, I just mentioned. There's the Key We've Lost. That one plays a lot later in the game. There's Primordial's theme. Just actual... Primordial's so good. Oh, there's the Vifligen. When you're in... Is it... So, okay, to go back to the battle system, there's this overdrive kind of thing you can trigger. I don't know if it's actually called overdrive or not. My apologies for that. But if you achieve certain things, you can then activate it. And when you do, the track Vifligen, or however you pronounce it, my apologies, starts playing. And that one slaps too. Like, it really gets... Like, you're locked in when it happens. It gets you in the zone. And I love that so much. It's... just X's soundtrack, in my opinion, it's underrated, honestly. I've seen a lot of people come around to it in recent times, but I don't see it like really talked about as much in the sort of like in a positive sense that the main 3 games get talked about in terms of their soundtrack, which is a real shame because like all of it's really good. And fun fact about the soundtrack as well, like it was composed by Hiroyuki Sawano. Anime fans will recognize that name immediately. That is the same person who composed the music for Attack on Titan seasons 1 to 3, off the top of my head. And every soundtrack from seasons 1 to 3, holy shit, man! That's the first swear. Okay, so I was seeing how that would take. Like, yeah, to have that level of talent on hand for a Xenoblade game. A series that already goes hard in its music department. Wow. But yeah, that's your little factoid for you. He's composed other music as well, obviously, but AOT is the one that primarily comes to mind for me when it comes to his work. Yeah, like insane little factoid there for you. It's also probably why the music often drowns out character voices in cutscenes as well. Because they probably had to pay him a lot of money for that. Understandably so, like, quality's always bad. So he probably wanted to make it worth it as well. Oh, characters too. Like, I'm not really going to go through all of them, but probably the character like most people think about when it comes to X is Elma. Like, she may not be the main character, that's your character, the one you customize, but Alma's the main character, let's be real here. And she's like the OG wife for me. Like, I think she's the first time I remember specifically having a crush on a video game character. It was either her or Cynthia from Perkon. But I can't remember exactly, but my mind say it was probably Elma. Because that's the first time I remember being like, whoa, you're gorgeous, you're perfect. And like, yeah, she's great. Like, I love Elma so much. She's like always been one of my favourite characters. Maybe for looks alone. Nah, not for looks alone. Like, I love her just in general a lot. Her English voice of it especially, like, always been really good. Sorry, that sounds really weird highlighting it like that. She's voiced by the just incredibly talented Caitlin Glass. She voices a lot of other characters in like anime especially. I know she has a key role in Fruits Basket. I haven't seen that yet through yet. I've seen like a couple episodes, but not just like the whole thing yet. She plays like one of the characters in the dub, but yeah, like that aside though, just like I can't wait to spend time with my wife again. I missed her, and that's why the thumbnail is how it is. But in all seriousness, like, just trying to get back onto the main topic at hand, despite this being sort of like a raving video. I was just gonna say rant, but rant has a negative connotation to it, and yeah, rant's used in a negative sense. So a raving video, which is the positive version of a rant. I know it's been a mess, but like, I'm sorry, man. I'm incredibly excited to actually play this game again, and especially with its like graphical overhaul. I'll admit, on the Wii U, it had like a sort of dulled palette, but with this graphical overhaul they seem to be going with, which is, I'll admit, I was kind of like hoping. I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't go the XE2 sort of XE3 kind of art style, because you look at Alba in XE2 as one of the the party members. She's got a very different like design to how she appears in X, and that's to accommodate for XE2's more anime-esque art style. And I kind of wish they went with that, or just did what they did with or just went with the art style they went with XE3, which was like a sort of perfect combination of the XE1 and XE2 styles. But if we just go for an otherwise basic graphical facelift, I'm really happy with how it looks, honestly. Like, everything looks really good. Character models especially, and just everything, like, colour palette wise, everything looks like much better. That's not to say the original looks like bad at all, but you can definitely see it in comparison to the trailer, at least, that the original has a slightly duller colour palette. It's not like it's devoid of a colour at all, but you can definitely see the difference. But it's oh my god, man, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to play this game again. I've tried to emulate it early on in the year. I tried to emulate it back in January, but didn't really get far with it. It does work, not wholly well, however, but I'm so happy to have a proper way to play it again, and I'm so incredibly happy it gets a second chance. It should not have been left to die on the Wii U for so long. And I know the team behind Xenoblade has said, Microsoft, I don't know the exact division, have said porting X to Switch was going to be an expensive sort of a procedure. So I get why it's taken so long, but honestly, I think the wait was worth it. Hopefully it isn't left to die on the Switch, with the Switch 2 being on the horizon somewhere. But I'm just glad I could have another chance, man. I'm so excited, and we're getting more content for it too. We're finally getting a conclusion to that cliffhanger at the very end of the game. 10 years later. I think that's the actual 10th anniversary of X's release in Japan, so yeah, man. Japan or Europe, I don't remember, not entirely sure, but it'll be on screen hopefully. But man, all Xenoblade games in one place. It's all I've ever dreamed of.